mandates? And how can the Ninth National Assembly, inaugurated on the 11th of June 2019, be made to make a success of its 4-year tenure, which ends in June 2023? This edition of Platform examines these issues with Awal Musa Ibrahim, popularly called Rafsanjani, the Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, as we attempt an assessment of the 8th National Assembly and set an agenda for the 9th National Assembly. Awal Musa Rafsanjani, welcome to Platform.
Thank you very much.
As usual, on our panel, we have Ademola Adeoye, Assistant Director News of the NTA.
Good to be here.
Also here is Ruth Aguele with NTA Current Affairs Unit.
Thank you for having me as usual.
Awal Musa Rafsanjani, Executive Director, CISLAC, welcome once again to Platform.
Thank you very much.
Like we said in the introduction, the 8th National Assembly just ended its tenure, and the 9th National Assembly was inaugurated on the 11th. Let's do an attempt of assessing the 8th National Assembly before we go into setting the agenda for the 9th.
Okay, thank you very much. The last 8th Assembly, started with, controversy of the leadership selection process, and that, consumed considerable time to allow legislative work to start in annex. And given the controversy that emanated as a result of the disagreement or lack of satisfaction by some faction of the party, the ruling party. Ruling party, had a prepared candidate, and some members of the APC, along with other members of the opposition party, also decided to support one of the ruling party member in person of Senator Saraki. Now, that led to a lot of controversy, and the next controversy was the selection process of the committees and other principal officers. So that also took some time to resolve, but eventually that was also settled after a long period of debate, agreement and disagreement, negotiation and dialogue between the party and the members of the National Assembly. So therefore, they started with a very serious controversy, and again, the leadership of the National Assembly, particularly the Senate, also experienced serious legal problem because the Senate President, the former Senate President, was taken to court for wrongful, declaration of asset, and so many other charges. That also detracted the leadership of the National Assembly, and the members had to go on solidarity in many instances to the court to give solidarity to one of their leaders. Having said that, in terms of the real legislative work, which is lawmaking, oversight, constituency, accountability, and representation, which will be the basis in which we can actually assess how the 8th Assembly performed, we can say that in terms of the lawmaking, the 8th Assembly, they have actually legislated a lot of laws in this country, and
in fact, they were commending themselves to having passed the highest number of bills.
Exactly.
Is that true?
Exactly. They have done that, and then not only highest bill, but also some key important bill that will help, ensure good governance. For example, the electoral reform. If it was assented by the president, it will have helped to improve the electoral transparency and help in terms of political integrity in the country. But unfortunately, that didn't succeed in terms of getting the president to assent to it. Again, in terms of shaping the economy, which is we all know it is the oil and gas that is the bone of income, and for a very long time Nigerians and successive regime have been making attempts to legislate on petroleum industry bill. The 8th Assembly was able to conclude work on that. Again, it was also turned down despite the participation of the relevant executive members like NNPC, and other subsidiary of the NNPC, Ministry of Petroleum and what have you, at various public hearing to get their views and perspective, on that. So that unfortunately didn't happen. But, we also succeeded with its assembly to have Northeast Development Commission. As you know, civil society has been advocating for at least a legal framework that would, deal with the kind of crisis we found in the Northeast as a result of the insurgency. The Eighth Assembly, to its credit, was able to succeed in making sure that we have a commission that will deal with the crisis that we have arising from the westernization of the development in that area, as well as also infrastructure that have completely collapsed in that place. And not only that, also to respond to the IDP crisis, in that. So you have to give kudos to the H Assembly for concluding work on that and also getting that assented. Also, people with disability have been crying for legal framework in this country. The H Assembly was able to succeed in putting together the disability, legislation in place, which the president also graciously, assented to. There are quite a number, of, numerous, marvelous pieces of legislation that the Eighth Assembly has done. So that is in the area of lawmaking. In the area of oversight, I think, that area, because of the endemic nature of corruption in Nigeria, many of the executive agencies, due to the impunity, they do not cooperate with the National Assembly members, because when they are called for public hearing or investigative hearing or even oversight, they didn't provide information available to them. So with all the freedom of information law that we have, many government officials, they were not honoring the freedom of information request, not only for the ordinary citizen, but even for the National Assembly members. At the same time, also, there was some completing lack of understanding on how to go about legislative oversight, because some of the members were so overzealous, they did not actually have what it takes to understand and go about legislative oversight. So it became like a platform for extortion, intimidation, and blackmail. And that inability for some of the National Assembly members to assert themselves in terms of legislative oversight gave gap in terms of getting government to comply with policy and programs and even compliance of legislation in the country. So we have, we've had gaps in terms of really what is it that you want to oversight? How do you oversight? What do you document? What are the things? What are the things that, you needed to ensure that, government, agencies and parastatals in terms of budget implementation, they do? Those information, because of the deficit in the knowledge and capacity as well as experience by many members that go on the oversight, they were not able to really do that a lot. Again, because of corruption, so many untouchable places like NNPC, many a times, even if you call for public hearing, you will not hear anything. It will only be a ceremonial thing, and that's all. So in terms of really getting the National Assembly to really exercise its, constitutional responsibility, as well as legislative responsibility to ensure government programs and policies and legislation compliance with regard to oversight, we did not witness much success in the H Assembly. Now, when you come to the issues of constituency accountability, which is really the only mechanism where elected official will give account to the electorate that elected them, that was more of like completely absent, because where you even have constituency offices, those constituency offices were not manned with capacitated staff who understand what constituency accountability is, because constituency outreach is about accountability, getting the electorate to understand what you are doing in the assembly, giving them constant information and feedback on your representation, as well as also getting information, including early warnings, because what people don't understand, constituency accountability also entails getting early warnings when there's a tension or problems from your constituency. You would have been able through proper communication and sharing of information, be able to know that there is going to be a problem, there's likely going to be a problem. So as a representative of their constraint, you would have been able to get that information, come to the National Assembly, raise it as a matter of national importance, so that necessary legislative action and even government attention, will be drawn to do that. That, was totally missing, because many of the offices were empty, some were not even there, despite the fact that National Assembly do provide resources, human resources for each of the member to ensure that you have functional constituency office, So I think we have seen gaps, in that respect. Then the last component, it has to do with the representation. Well, again, because of the way and manner in which so many people did not understand legislative work who happen to be elected, representation means to them, they are in Abuja, they sit down, they think and take decision without, referral to the constituents, or at least national interest issue, that affect the community, the constituent. This is supposed to be, consulted, so that what is your view on the electoral amendment? What is your view on the constitutional amendment that we are going, to do on issues of fiscal federalism, on issues of indigeneity, on issues of, name it, all these other issues, not that opportunity is given for the electorate to interact and properly represent their views and aspiration. So that is not a fault of only the H Assembly. It has been since 1999. That has been a major challenge, because there has been deficit in understanding of what representation is. During the third term, you remember a lot of people will say, on behalf of my constituency say XYZ. Meanwhile, there was no any platform to discuss anything. So this is why, if you really want to represent the people, the people's matter, interests, ideas, suggestion, must be taken into consideration, so that you have the legitimacy to actually do the representation. But when you are totally having communication gaps, with the electorate, then it means that you may end up representing yourself. And that is why you see many members have not been able to go to their constituency to actually know what are even the issues. What is it that they want them to go and present in the assembly? So we have a long way to address some of this core legislative responsibility. It's not just making law or going for oversight, but these two components, representation and constituency accountability, is very weak, and we need to do everything possible to fix it. That is what will help to deepen democracy, to ensure there's a grassroots participation in the democratic process. Otherwise it will be difficult. So in assessing the H Assembly, these are the 4 key issues that you looked at, and then, like I rightly mentioned, some they have been able to do it very well. Some they need to do more, especially for the next for the ninth assembly now, taking the lesson and the mistakes, and of course the success that the 8th Assembly has done.
Was it totally the fault of the 8th National Assembly that it had challenges with the constituency accountability and proper representation, as you put it?
It is not just the 8th Assembly. Since from 1999, we have been having these challenges because of the fact that there has not been stability in terms of the number of members that come back. Each election period, each election cycle, you have between 65 to 70% of members not coming back. So it is a whole lot of understanding, learning processes of the legislative rudiment, because for you to be a good legislator in the floor of the National Assembly, you must spend at least a minimum of that 4 years to understand the rudiment of all the legislative processes, to be able to make meaningful contribution and contribute towards legislating laws that will really help in good governance and checkmate the excesses of the executive, as well as also become very accountable to your constituent. So it takes time to understand that, to do that. And unfortunately, many people who are coming into the assembly, because some of them, they find National Assembly as a retiring home, therefore they will not bother themselves to even bother to understand such kind of legislative work. Secondly, the party selection process or nomination process, it has a lot of credibility problems. Many people who probably shouldn't be nominated in the first place, they find themselves because they have money, because the party has put a very high, very exorbitant, amount for the form, to obtain a form to be nominated into various positions. So ordinary people who are honest, who have legitimate income, would find it extremely difficult to compete with those people who have looted or lose money, or who have godfathers who can bankroll their own nomination, form nomination fee, and also to pay bribe. Because part of the challenge we have is that the party system is so corrupt that if you are an honest person, you may find it extremely difficult to be able to get the nomination fee, even if you have grassroots supporters, because you have to be giving bribe to different, kind of people at different level to be able to emerge as party candidate. So that is a big challenge. So many people who probably would have been in a good position to be in the National Assembly, they have been excluded, they have been edged out because they did not have stolen money or lose money or godfathers that will push them to do that. So that is the reason why the place has been also populated with the kind of caliber of people that you have. Even though you still have some good people that have legitimate income who also buy, uncontested election and get the popular vote and support that are also in the assembly, because some of them, they are actually good, but some of them, they are also the other way around. So it is that problem that you have, which is not necessarily the 8th assembly fault, but it is the system since the return of democracy that has commercialized and privatized, political offices, in the country, making it extremely difficult for people who actually have idea or who are passionate, like you find in other legislature across the world. Some people are in the legislature because they are environmentalists. For years they have a track record that they have been pushing for environmental agenda. Some they are pushing for gender issue. Some they are interested in water and sanitation. Some are interested in anti-corruption. Some are interested in actually improving economy. So you see them in the legislature, and when they come, they are able to exercise their legislative responsibility built on this track record and experience. And when you put them in committee, whether it is the security, whether it is the anti-corruption, whether it is, name it, all the different committees that you have, you see them excelling very well, because they also had a background, they have a passion, they have experience. But in the case of Nigeria, people who have never held office, people who are not known to be committed to any pushing social justice issue, or even an issue that are passionate, you find them because of godfatherism, because of the loose money or stolen money they have accumulated. Now, you find them.
You have catalogued a lot of challenges that is bedeviling the National Assembly, like the issue of money politics and some candidates not even having the experience, because having to change candidates at every election, which does not augur so well for the democracy. But some people have canvassed for the issue of independent candidacy to be able to check this issue of money politics. What's your take on that?
It is even better to do it through the instrumentality of political parties, because based on the experience we have in Nigeria, if you are going to do independent candidacy, it means that those who have those loose money, they will be the one to hijack, the thing. So
no, some people don't even have the money, but they have the clout. They have the support of the people.
No, I think if you have internal party democracy, if you have party members that respect the wish and aspiration and the popular view of the people, I think through instrumentality of political party would be the best, because the person will be more accountable to the party, will be more answerable to
But
the
you
party.
just mentioned
But
now
if
that
you are,
you just mentioned now that you just mentioned now that because of the money that is involved, many of these money bags they buy over, the officials of the political parties. So it becomes difficult for somebody that has no money, does not have that financial muscle to contest with them.
yeah, I'm saying that it is even a better way to resolve the money back thing through platform or political parties than individual who will not be accountable to anybody, who probably has this loose money, and you don't even know whether it is a terrorism money or it is stolen money, but because he has the money, he can do whatever he wants to do, and nobody can caution him or her. But through the party system and discipline, if we can impose the principle of fairness, equity, and internal democracy, you will be able to control the excesses of individuals that probably hijack that. And that is why we have been advocating for the political party reforms in Nigeria, so that real political parties that are actually having programs that have sizable supporters and clear manifesto will be the one to be registered. The last election we recorded many political parties that are completing in fact they're confusing even the electorate, because their logos and their names were more of like similars. But I am saying that if you carry a serious political party reforms system in the country to ensure internal democracy, accountability, and respect for the majority of the members wish, and of course the minority also having their own right, you would have a better control mechanism rather than to have an individual who will not be accountable to nobody.
Now, let me just follow up on just one more thing there. You mentioned the fact that a lot of representatives that are coming in now, majority of them, if you notice, are greenhorns. Most of the experienced ones are no longer coming back. People have argued that it's not too good for the development of our democracy. How will this augur in this night assembly, or would it have any negative effect,
Definitely,
moving forward?
Definitely, you are going to have some challenges with the Ninth Assembly, because you have a virgin members in both chambers coming to grapple with the reality.
What is the ratio?
You have over 65% of the new members there.
On both sides?
Yeah.
In the assembly. So with such kind of huge turnover, definitely the legislative process is going to be slow, and there will be a lot of immaturity in the process. But you can mitigate that through having effective and efficient qualified legislative aides, and also committee secretaries who can help, because they are the engine of the legislature. So if a wiser legislator knows that he is new in this assembly, all you need to do is because the National Assembly gives you the opportunity to have, I think, up to grade is it 13 or 15? 15. So if you have that opportunity, why not go and recruit a quality person who understand and who can be able to help you analyze bill, when there is a bill, when there is a motion, when there is any legislative intervention, rather than you go and carry somebody who will just be carrying your briefcase and be doing drink every day or ogasa. That is the challenge we have. Otherwise, it would have been much easier to overcome the challenges that the new members will have, if only they can get competent, qualified, professional legislative aides like you have in other countries. In other countries, you have well-trained legislative professionals that are actually recruited by legislators, because you cannot come to the National Assembly with every knowledge, but when you have professionals that they have understanding of how legislators function, how you can perform your roles as a legislator, you would have been able to cover up the gaps and the lapses that you may have, But in the case of Nigeria, many members, unfortunately, instead of recruiting qualified, competent people, they would rather go and employ people probably that may not be able to help you in delivering your legislative responsibility. So that is one challenge that we have to. And I'm calling on the new members that are in the National Assembly now. Let them take advantage of the opportunity the National Assembly offers to them to recruit legislative aid. Let them recruit quality people who can help them deliver their legislative mandate, their legislative responsibility through analyzing bills, through writing, even papers, through, communication between the electorate, their constituency and the member himself, because he cannot be every now and then with them. But with efficient staff, well-staffed and channel of communication, he will be able to respond to some of the challenges in his constituency. And if you are able to equip yourself and also take advantage of the many capacity enhancement that civil society like CISLAC we are operating. In fact, as I speak to you right now, we are in Enugu, some of the members trying to organize program for them as part of our legislative contribution for the 9th Assembly. So if you have taken advantage of many organizations that are offering this legislative enhancement capacity, you would have been able to equip yourself and come come quickly to bridge whatever gaps you may have. But the challenge you have is that when you have so many ex-governors, ex-ministers who probably are not passionate, but they just want to be senators, they just want to be there for political relevance, and probably some of them are not even interested. They don't come to the assembly. They are not doing legislative assignments, but they have gone to do other businesses. That is a big challenge. So unless we are able to close that gaps by getting quality people to support the National Assembly. And if you remember, CISLAC along with other organizations have been even advocating for National Assembly Budget and Research Office, so that whenever the executive sends budget proposal, they will be able to digest it with having competent, qualified, experts who will look at whatever the budget that the executive will send, to look at it from professional perspective, to help them understand and digest and be able to do that. That office is not yet to happen. And I am advocating for the 9th Assembly to ensure that that office is actually established with competent people in place, so that when issue of budget comes, we will not have this 6-month delay or 3-month or 5-month delay. But because you have experts who understand, because it is difficult for a legislator that has just come now to compete with somebody who has been in the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Finance for 30 years, 25 years, who his work is just doing this, and then you have never even done any budget in your life, and you say you want to oversight that, you want to checkmate that. Definitely you will just be a laughing stock. So, but with the backup of support, you will be able to, do your work.
Well, I know from what you're saying now, the legislators drive their mandate directly from the people, and there are a lot of high expectations from Nigerians in terms of expecting this 9th Assembly to be transparent, in terms of accountability. Now, to ensure an effective legislative functionality and also a defined structure, what are those loopholes this 9th Assembly should be looking at, to ensure a smooth run, so that what happened in the 8th should not repeat itself?
First and foremost, the 9th Assembly must learn from the previous mistakes, not only for the 8th Assembly, but all the subsequent, legislative calendar that we have had in this country. There are so many obvious and clear mistakes, and the 9th Assembly should not repeat those mistakes. Secondly,
do you
what are those mistakes?
Yes. Do you envisage?
Yes. Some of them, first, is not doing what you are supposed to do as a legislator. Like I had said earlier on, some of them, they want to go for oversight, and it is not oversight really. It is an opportunity for extortion. It is an opportunity for intimidation, for blackmail, and for even abuse. That should not happen. You are a legislator. Your responsibility is not to insult anybody. It's not to come and harass anybody, but to ensure that you ask the relevant information, and questions. And if you are not satisfied with that, through investigative hearing, through public hearing, you will be able to get that done. Secondly, you should also make sure that whatever law that you are going to pass it is a law that has the interests of the nation and the people. It is not a law that is meant to protect an individual in an office. We have to make sure that the Ninth Assembly, legislate only those laws that will help to bring about good governance, peace and stability and development in this country. Otherwise, if you just go for the sake of making law, you would have wasted taxpayers' money, you would have wasted your time. At the same time, there's nothing that one can see that you have actually contributed. The other thing is that the National Assembly members must try as much as possible to be ethical in the conduct of their work. During the tenure of Galina Abba, we worked with the National Assembly to bring about legislative ethics. I will suggest strongly that as part of legislative agenda for the Ninth Assembly, they should ensure that there is a legislative ethics in terms of,
Was that what Speaker Gali was calling the contract with Nigerians?
That is part of the legislative agenda of the Galin Abba, and we supported the establishment or working to have code of conduct for legislators. That is legislative ethics that I'm talking about. If the legislators they have that, then they guide themselves jealously. There's no way you would see any executive arm of office, you will send him or her invitation to come and they will ignore. Because why some of them they ignore that, apart from the impunity which they exercise, which undermines the effectiveness and functionality of the legislature, is because of also this unethical conduct of some of the members who goes around to ask for certain advantage or certain material support. So try and do away with that. Then you would see respect, and you will see that anybody you invite, they cannot do that. And if they do that, you can actually inject your legislative powers to ensure that that person is actually arrested.
Well, you said the 8th Assembly started with controversy with election of principal officers, controversy with court cases and all that. But it appears the 9th Assembly is starting on a clean slate. The 2 presiding officers have been elected, their deputies have been elected, and we should believe very well that the other principal officers offices will soon be filled. What do you think?
We have to remember that even the 8th Assembly, the problem they had was more of external problems. People from outside wanted to control who becomes what and what. Not really the members per se, as you can see that they were able to manage, themselves. Now, the 9th Assembly, there has been, before even the inauguration of the 9th Assembly, there has been all sort of campaign and support by both the parties, the Governors Forum, name it, everybody, towing toward a particular direction. Well, that is the popular support that the current Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Senate President, Deputy Senate President has gotten. However, they were very smart to see that it is not just their party affairs. They have to make sure that they talk to every member, irrespective of his or her political parties, to gain that support, to gain that legitimacy. Because if it was just what the Adams family wanted to do, which he was trying to even bully members of his party, that if you did not do XYZ, should leave the party or we should punish you. The current leadership will not have succeeded in gaining the confidence of not only their members, fellow members of the party, but also on the other political opposition party, which means that the current leadership, they are so smart to make sure that they work together with all of their colleagues and disallow this external influence and pressure and intimidation. Because I tell you, many ruling party members were not happy with that instruction or directive, by the party chairman. That is why, toward the election period, he was totally invisible in the scheme of things, because he would have affected the chances of these principal officers to be elected if he continues with the way of doing his bullying. So the members, they know themselves. They know the value of themselves. Every member, irrespective of the position he holds in the assembly, is equal to one member, is equal to the colleague, Every member is the same. You can be speaker today, tomorrow you can be out of that. So you can come back to the floor,
But do you foresee a cordial relationship in this Ninth Assembly with the executive? No conflict of interest? Are you foreseeing that?
No. The truth of the matter is that if the legislature is going to do its work, all the impunity that is being perpetuated by many government agencies, ministry, parastatal, and name it, if it is to be checkmate, then people would call it lack of cordial relationship. But that is not lack of cordial relationship. As far as I'm concerned, those healthy disagreements or exposing corruption by the legislature is what will make the President Buhari to succeed and the executive to succeed. But if you silence the legislature in the name of cooperation, not to do their legislative work of exposing corruption, lapses, incompetencies, other refusal to do what is right, then you would have compromised governance generally. And the executive, Mr. President himself, you would have put himself in a very difficult situation because he has only two eyes. He cannot be everywhere. But through the collaboration and partnership with the legislature, they can help him, help the executive checkmate the looting and stealing and if you like it, inefficiency in the various executive arms that you have. Because the executive is not just Mr. President. You have all sort of parastatal ministries, you have ministers, you have directors, you have all sort of people there. So it is in our interest that a healthy disagreement between legislature and the executive continue to occur without undermining also the effectiveness of the government itself. Because if you silence the legislature because you want a cordial relationship, yes sir, then you will have completely undermined and should change Nigerians, because they would not be check and balances, they will not be able to expose wrongdoings in the name of cooperation. So the legislature and the executive, they need to work together. They need to push and promote the interests of Nigeria and Nigeria, but not to silence them from disagreeing with Mr. President or the executive.
But Mr. President has also stated the fact that he will respect the rule of separation of powers. Now, if we're to avoid politics play between the legislature and the executive, what about internal structural system? Now I'm talking of the legislature, so that we don't see politics play out again.
Look, politics is all part of our blood. What we are doing is politics here. I'm a student of political science. Everything that you do in your life is politics. What you want is politics. How you get it is politics. How you like it, dislike it is politics. So politics you cannot take away. Where it is dangerous is when it undermines national interest and when it undermines collective interest of the people. That's why it becomes dangerous. When it promotes corruption, it promotes impunity and rascality. That's where that politics is dirty. But politics, to negotiate, to dialogue, to agree and disagree, is healthy in democracy.
I know that is one of the reasons why democracy, they say, thrives on the principle of separation of power. And I know that why a lot of people have been against this issue of interference from the executive to the legislature, because they are afraid of having a rubber stamp National Assembly. So with this latest development, how would you be able to allay the fears of those who are expressing such misgiving?
This Ninth Assembly cannot be rubber stamped. Yeah. My reason is simple. You have so many ex-governors, you have so many also experienced legislators in the Senate and House of Representatives. You have so many independent minds, even though they belong to the party, but they want to also see that they learn from the mistakes of the yesterday, to be able to do things that is proper for history, for posterity of the nation. And therefore, I do not see how this ninth National Assembly will be a rubber stamp. Rubber stamp to who? To any government agency that is perpetuating corruption? To any government agency that is not doing what is right? To any government agency that is disrespecting the rule of law? I don't see that going to happen. And having a Senate President, Deputy Senate President, Speaker, and Deputy Speaker cannot in any way silence the entire National Assembly from expressing their reservation when they see something is wrong. And in fact, as a matter of fact, where the majority of the members, turn, that is where the Speaker and the Senate President, Deputy Speaker and Deputy Senate President will go, because they know the repercussion of doing things against the collective interests of their members. Because their strength lies on the members. They put them there and they can remove them if they do anything that is anti-collective interests of the members.
Let's very quickly look at the issue of mainstreaming some issues. For example, issue of gender. In the incoming members of the Ninth Assembly, you have already rightly pointed out that 65 to 70% are new. And among those new members, you have very fewer female members now than you had in the 8th Assembly. In fact, the entire northern Nigeria, you have only one female senator.
Is it that women are not coming out?
How easy now will it be to mainstream gender issues, to mainstream special interest issues with this kind of lopsidedness?
First and foremost, it is the problem we have with the party, because everywhere, even in America, there's what they call affirmative action. Because when they realize that a particular group of people have been away, they try to create affirmative action to beat them up. We've been talking with the political parties in Nigeria to create opportunity for women to compete. We're not even saying dash them. Allow space, certain position, certain number of space to say, look, we have reserved this for women who are competent, who have the qualification and who have the experience to compete. If you do it in party A, party 2, party 3, party 4, all of them, you would have been able to have reasonable number that will be elected in the National Assembly. Then you will have been able to take the interests of women. But having lost that opportunity, I think what will happen is that with the support of various organizations like CISLAC and so many other organizations that are promoting women interests, whatever National Assembly will do will have to prioritize and give special interest to different, disadvantaged groups in its legislative intervention. Whether it is the lawmaking, whatever you are doing, you have to remember that there's a large constituency that are needed to be carried on board. Whether it is people with disability, whether it is the youth, whether it is the women, you need to make sure that in whatever legislative intervention you are doing, you put the interests of these disadvantaged and marginalized groups. That's the only way we can mitigate what had happened with 2019 general election, where women have been marginalized, have been ambushed, have been elbowed, have been pushed out, in the election at the state and national level.
Earlier you talked about the fact that some political parties during the 2019 election appear to even make their electorate to get confused, in the sense that the logos are either so similar or the party colors are similar to several others. Will you support a situation where that INEC now begins a deregistration of parties based on performance in the 2019 election?
We are strongly in support of having a national dialogue and national conversation to, have a minimum criteria for registering political parties in Nigeria that will contest national election, because we have succeeded in wasting public taxpayers' money in putting parties that did not actually have any numerical strength to contest election at national level. If your strength is at local government level, you can, do that. We don't need to put your logo at general election, presidential election. If your party has a strength at, state or zonal level, stick to that. But why do you have to force us to waste public taxpayers' money, confusing the electorate? Even those educated people were finding it difficult to differentiate between XYZ logo.
That is the job of the civil society, and CISLAC should champion that.
No, CISLAC alone cannot do that, but with other civil society organizations and INEC and all the stakeholders, we have the responsibility, including the political parties, to sit down and tell ourselves the honest truth about how we need to reform political party formation in this country. Otherwise, you will continue to have this. In fact, you will continue to have 1,000, 2,000, political parties.
I would really love to hear your perspective on this. The bill that wasn't passed concerning regulation of non-governmental organizations to checkmate the accountability of civil society groups. I want to hear your perspective as regard, I don't know how this works now. Should there be continuity of bill passage?
First and foremost, there's nothing like a bill to regulate, the activities of civil society, because already there are so many check and balances right from the registration. Every civil society that that is real civil society, they have audited accounts that they submit, to Corporate Affairs Commission. They also, work together with the National Planning Commission. So there are so many checks that they do, and routinely, the State Department, DSS and what have you, all of them, they all know those groups that exist. Where you have problem, you have those faceless groups sponsored by some politician to come and support their agenda. Maybe somebody is being tried for corruption, then you will hear one group coming to defend. There's no any serious civil society who will come and be supporting corrupt person or corruption or criminals or election that was not done in a transparent manner. Those groups are not civil society, and usually you hear them coalition of this, coalition of that. They have no identity, they have no face. But today, go and Google, you are looking for CDD, you find it. You are looking for IAGA, you find it. You are looking for CISLAC, you find it.
So what are your recommendations?
My recommendation is that, the agencies already that are responsible for dealing with civil society, they know, okay, if you are a serious civil society, you
there shouldn't be any regulation.
There's nothing like regulation. This one is a calculated attempt to emasculate civil society from saying the truth, from telling the truth to the powers. That is why they had attempted. Mark you, since 1999, some, unpatriotic people have been trying to close the space for civil society and media so that they will not actually ventilate and say what is right and what is wrong and support government, because civil society is not anti-government. Civil society is actually helping government, with information through its research, through its advocacy, through its capacity enhancement, and nobody is paying them. No government is paying them anything. Any NGO that you hear government is giving them money is not an NGO. It's not a civil society.
For example, where does CISLAC get its money from?
CISLAC gets its support from different foundations who are interested in the work we are doing, which is anti-corruption, which is improving, security sector, which is improving women, participation and creating, access to justice for people. So you have so many various foundations and individuals that are interested. You, Mohammed Kudu, if you are interested, you would have said, okay, look, I am interested in pushing freedom of information, compliance of freedom of information. I have 200 naira, I have 1,000 naira for you to be able to have a quality staff that will come and do the work. I am contributing this money so that you can hire a competent staff, or so that you can go and pay office rent. Office rent, CISLAC, we are paying about 10 million naira per annum for the office we are occupying. Without those people who sympathize and those who are interested in the work we are doing, it will have been extremely difficult because we don't get grants, we don't get subvention from government.
Awal Musa Ibrahim alias Rafsanjani, Executive Director, Civil Society Advocacy and Legislative Center, CISLAC. Thank you for your time and your thoughts as you assessed the 8th National Assembly and set agenda for the 9th National Assembly.
Thank you very much, too.
Ademola Adeoye, Assistant Director News, NTA, thank you for your thoughts too.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Ruth Aguele, NTA Current Affairs Unit, thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
The past 50 minutes, we've been talking with Awal Musa Rafsanjani, the Executive Director of CISLAC, on an assessment of the 8th National Assembly, and he also set agenda for the 9th National Assembly. And he is very sure, he said, that the 9th National Assembly will be robust and will not be cowed by any agency. Let us hope that happens, because that will mean that there will be real value for money for the constituents who brought them to the assembly in the first place. That's Platform. Thank you for watching. I'm Muhammad Kudu Abubakar. See you next time.